I'm gonna open this Tecate, and hopefully I don't burp a lot. Okay, so we're gonna get started. What are we doing today? I did a poll and kind of saw some game development, some prototyping of a new game project, or we could have seen deploying an open ops service. We're going to take JQ as a service and then deploy it on a DigitalOcean instance that is managed by a Terraform config and a Docker file that would be deployed whenever master gets a PR, allowing people to manage the infrastructure of the thing. So it's more than just an open source project. It would actually be run in an open source way. That is sort of a small version of how I want to do most services, including Command IO. But instead, people voted for an SSH client, which actually is kind of nice because it's a little bit more straightforward. I've done it at least once or twice in some way. So we're going to do it in this the GL prototypes organization, this SSH client or repo, which doesn't have anything in it right now, and won't until the end of the stream or so. But you can follow along here and then play with it afterwards. Let's see. So we're building a client. We're going to do a simple server and then try and make it go program to connect to it with no authentication. Do hello world. Actually, I'll just put this in a text file so we have it. I like doing a local directory. You know, when people do a git ignore and you have a bunch of local files, I like having a whole directory that I don't have to worry about, and that's where I'll put to do and like deployment scripts or whatever that isn't actually versioned, secrets and all that. So first we'll run a server. We'll probably just use the example server from the Glider Labs SSH library, and then we'll start working on a client to connect and hello world with no auth, and then we'll work on key-based auth. Basically, using the conventions of OpenSSH, looking for an ID RSA or DSA file in your. We'll kind of make it sort of pluggable, so you can just create new functions that will load from different places and add it to a sort of keychain, and then we have to worry about terminals. That's tricky for a lot of people. I mean, it's a pretty simple client that ultimately, and then if there's time, I want to try and do port forwarding. So we have a branch in the SSH library for servers to do port forwarding. So now if we can do a client that can work with that port forwarding, then we're one step closer to building up this functionality I want to build for Command IO, which we'll get to soon. So we're kind of doing like all these videos are sort of pieces or building blocks of something bigger. So this is probably good enough. I won't go for an hour, maybe 2 hours if things are going well and I'm not exhausted. So that's the plan. Any questions? Like I said, this is actually pretty good. We're on ultra low latency mode. So there's a low latency mode that I haven't really been using, cause like almost over a minute of delay when people chat or before people see me, and so chat would be really delayed. So my response would be really super delayed. Ultra low latency mode is pretty cool. All right, so let's get started. We'll set up an entry point. What should we call this? want to call it SSH. The problem is if it creates an SSH, it will put it in the go path bin, which is in my path, and it will then take over my my normal SSH. So that's not good. Let's call it, I guess, SSH client. This is a prototype, so who cares what it's called? And as usual, I like to just do this. And make sure this works. Cool. So the thing is, so the SSH library that we have here is really for servers, and at some point it'd be nice to have a high-level library for clients, maybe part of that library. SSH, Golang, crypto. In the meantime, the library that it's wrapping, which is a little bit lower level, it does have a higher level client. It's very simple, and it doesn't have most of the conventions that OpenSSH would normally do, like, oh, you know, open up a, like how it's configured by default. You get kind of the basics of the SSH protocol. So let's actually also go and run our server. I think simple will be good. Cool, and that works with regular SSH. It's gonna complain about the host key, but it said hello program. So stuff like using this by default, the user that you're logged in as, all of that stuff is stuff we'll have to do. And unfortunately, it's stuff that people kind of expect from an SSH client. So even though there's kind of a high-level thing here, it's not everything. But let's start using this, and I'm probably gonna just start working in here until it gets too big, and then maybe start refactoring things as we go along. So I'm not sure if there's an example. I guess this is an example. So you set up a config, and then you do a dial, and then you do a session, and then you basically all this. We can start with this. Let's see if it does the imports. Cool. Okay, client config. I'll do program for now. Auth method. We're not using password auth, so we're going to have to do key-based auth. Yeah, this library actually has evolved a little bit. There's a couple of new helper things in here that I hadn't seen before. Retriable auth method. Let's see, what does this do? Decorator for other auth methods, enabling to be retried up to max times before considering it failed. Useful for interactive clients using challenge response, where the user could mistype their response, right? If you were to do like a password thing and they get it wrong, you would want it to retry. Well, we're not doing password stuff. I mean, most of the time I just do passwords. If you're doing SSH, you might as well do keys. So, oh, this is nice. It's gonna putting this all together for us. So I'll hard code this for now. Just trying to get something in here. So we got key log fatal, let's just panic. And make a signer, panic. And then public keys. Oh, we need a host key, that's right. Fixed host key. Fixed host key. This is one of the things that they added since I started using this too, which is pretty good because it would, I think, skip host key authentication by default. So now I have to be more explicit about it. Host key callback. You could do ignore host key. Maybe this is what I should start with. Yeah, that's, I think, what I'll do. So that will basically ignore the host key. I'm going to hard code the address. I'll replace these panics in a bit. Just trying to get something that works as quickly as possible, that we can then iterate on. Yeah, session run. So I'm going to tell it a command to run. So if you were to like run a command as an argument, it would normally do run, or you would do shell, which is typically what happens when you just connect with SSH without specifying a command. I'm going to have this actually just go to just pass it through. Session shell. Is there anything else that I need to do? Start shell. I think I just have to do shell. Okay, yeah. So run is start but blocking, and output is run but capturing the output, and shell is start without a command, which does a shell with no command. Okay, because we are not processing any commands. Ooh, we'll have to maybe do signal proxying. Nobody actually uses that. I mean, once you go into terminal mode, doing Control C and stuff is going to just send as a character control sequence, so we don't really have to worry about signals. Session close. I don't do a client close. Okay, we should have a client, I think. Yep, no, there's no host key. So this is nice. We won't have to worry about the fact that it generated a host key, and it doesn't write the host key to the known hosts. So let's see what this does. Nothing. I think this is what we were missing. Let's try it again. Cool. So that works. We don't do any logging here, so we don't even know if it gets the command. And hello program, because of the user that we passed, we hard-coded it. So now we can start refactoring this into something a little bit more flexible. So it's gonna kind of turn into a mess, and then later we can refactor it. But already we have a working SSH client. Pretty simple. Okay, so the key stuff. Let's see here. Public keys takes. Let's first. Okay, let's first get the current user, which is kind of annoying, and not even terribly cross-platform from what I understand. But no, I'm not. No, I'm not. But thanks for joining, Chica Steve. Did I say that right? Current user. Let's just start using this. User current, I guess. User. It's kind of annoying when the variable name you want is the package name. User current. I'll do this. No, because I'm just assigning that. Or how do you know I'm not the Dexter author? Because do you know what the Dexter author looks like? So once we have a user, what do we want? The username. Ooh, and we get home directory. Let's just print this stuff out. It would probably give me this if I just pass the user object, but just want to be kind of explicit. What I'm getting. Okay, so that works. We can use both of those things. I'm trying to remember what wasn't cross-platform. It was like the home directory or something. Oh, well, we need both of those. We'll use them while we have them. And first one we can use here. And then, let's see. I'm going to put this in a, let's see if it doesn't work. What do I want to return? A signer. If it can't parse it, now we're going to need to know some of this stuff. I guess we'll pass in a user. Yeah, I guess that, right? And we're just going to ignore the error. Well, no. We'll capture the error, and if there is an error, we just return nil. That's what we'll do. And then this. What should we do here? Let's do go to IDRZ user home directory. So we can do this same thing to do DSA, which I don't have, but that's right, DSA. Maybe I do. Maybe I've made one. Let's see what's in here. Okay. So the idea is that we have these try functions, and then we can just list them here. Try RSA, what is it, U, try DSA, U. And if we make new ones, we can just put them in here. We won't get fancy and have, registered new methods or whatever. And we're also going to ignore any other kind of auth method for now. I guess we need to do something with this host key thing, huh? What should we do? Ooh. Fancy. What is all this stuff? I don't remember this. Cert checker. It's also new, I think. Fixed host key returns a function for use to accept only a specific host key. So, I mean, at some point, if this were like a full library or whatever that was basically OpenSSH compatible, which is generally what we want, in a composable way, so you can choose which features of OpenSSH, standard stuff you want to work with. We would get the host key and check known hosts. And write it. Actually, I don't actually know all what OpenSSH does. Does it actually do this certificate checking stuff? Fortunately, there's not an example here. I don't know if we can get very deep into this. Most of the stuff that I write, I'm ignoring the host key because a lot of the things that I write are things that have to do with new instances that just came up. And so it's like host key is more of a hassle than it is useful, right? Because it's like, how likely is it that this new IP, this new VM is going to have a man-in-the-middle attack already? And most of the time, you're not going to have connected it to it before because you just created it. So the host key callback, the host key infrastructure is a little obnoxious in those situations. But so I haven't done a full host key sort of verification system before. So I guess for now we'll kind of ignore that and we'll come back to that, or leave it as a exercise for the reader, since this is all open source. But we want to start using the arguments. For example, what are we going to connect to? Grab that from the... It'd be nice because we can choose to support this syntax instead of like -p. Although we would have to default to 22. I'm just thinking, stupid little extra code to write. Let's get some args. Now, I don't like flags, but the built-in flag library does have better argument parsing than just using osargs. So we'll do that. First argument. Do it down here. Adder is flag arg 0, because I think this just makes it start. It is the first remaining argument after flags have been processed. Because arg0, OS arg0 is the name. I think, though, this is the first real argument. Let's try it. Although it might work weird with go run. Whatever. Okay, it worked. It's nice. And the thing is, we'll have to split it. Host port error. And we'll ignore this. And then say if port is empty, then port equals, for this test, we'll do default to 2222. Then here we'll do net join host port. Yep. And then once this works, we'll change this to 22. Okay, that worked. So now we have to do explicitly 2222. What else? I guess any other arguments after the first argument? Does the built-in flag package have that functionality where you can get all the args after whatever? Returns the non-flag. We could grab this and just take the first thing off, I guess. Is there anything that processes that? We could use a real flag parsing library. I don't actually like parsing flags. I'd rather do most stuff via the environment. Okay, let's do this. I guess we'll do this. Let's do it down here. Again, we can refactor all of this. So we set up session, then we figure out what we're going to do here. So the command that we're going to run, we get from args. We'll assume there's the first argument. Otherwise, what are you connecting? We'll do some error handling later. Then we'll also, let's see if the length of this is greater than 2. And the first one is this. Then we'll change this to that. What is that called? Shifting? Forget. Shift, unshift. It's not pop. So if this is empty now, then we would do shell. Otherwise, we would do run. So greater than 0. Basically the same thing, except we're going to run, which takes a string. And it is not a string, it is a list of strings, so we need to join with space. So that's one of the annoying things I hate about SSH is that it doesn't, when you define arguments, it doesn't give you an actual structured list of arguments. It basically does this. It only passes it as a string. So if you have arguments, you have to join them with a space, and then on the other end, try and split them. And then because of that, you could get things wrong because of shell parsing stuff. So run and then wait. I think we want an exit code out of this too. What is the exit code? Exit missing. If the session is torn down cleanly, but server sends no confirmation of the exit status. If it's an SSH exit error. Yeah, that's what we want to check. So what do we do? Type assertion, I guess. Exit error. Exit error. We'll just panic in any other case. Again, we'll clean up those panics later. Wait message. Okay, exit status is what we want from that. Oh, which we can get on the error, so that's good. And that's an integer. So we can just go like this. Doesn't implement error. What's that? At this point, we might want to just set up our own SSH server in this project just so we can start messing with some of these things. And at some point, turn these into tests. Okay. So we'll open this up and just grab one of the examples and use that as a base. Hello user, and then we'll exit with 2. So now we need to get out of here and do SSH client, and then we'll do go run SSH server. Okay, now we'll try this. Exit status 2. Okay, this is because we're using go run. So just to be sure, we'll just do go build. Let's make a build directory because I hate having a binary in the root. Build localized to. Cool. So we get that exit status when we actually run it. I'll get rid of that for now. Restart this, test it. Okay, client, what else do we got? Let's see, we're getting a user from current user and the key and everything, like it's pretty good. We need to test doing a command. So let me change the server and just output the command, which I'm hoping that this will just work because it's a slice. It's kind of shell parsing for you, which is nice. So we do this and there's nothing. If we do this and we say subcommand foobar, ooh, it's not done. What's it doing? It's weird. Is it because we did run and then wait? Could be. Maybe we should do start. We're not doing standard in or anything. I'm not sure what's going on here. We do start and then we do a wait. So something here would have to be blocking. It actually connects. It shows us this and then does not disconnect. We don't attach standard in. There's nothing there. So what is going on? Where is it blocking? Right, sure. Okay, start is blocking. I don't understand why. Oh, I'm using my build. We're not getting any of the new code. So we want to go back to this. Okay, about to wait. Get rid of that. Now we can test this command foobar. And if we did dash dash. Okay. Well, okay, now if we do a terminal, then we've gotten all of that out of the way. We can maybe do port forwarding, but looking at the activity, it might be able to just wrap it up quickly. I mean, we have 20 minutes, so we could say port forwarding for another time, because then we can actually use the port forwarding for something interesting if we do that in another video. Okay, terminal stuff, that's if we do shell. And we're not actually handling the terminal stuff. Let's go look at this example. It's a bit of work to do terminal stuff. We do this, and then, oh, what is this? Get out of here. And then is PTY, it does one thing, otherwise it does another. But we kind of do need to do this because we need to know whether or not we're going to do this window size updating. Not that we're actually setting it on anything because it's not running anything, so I guess we can ignore that. But we should, I guess it's the only way to actually test it though, so we'll do it. Start setting window size on F, which is starting this top command terminal. We'll just do that for now to test it. No. And then we'll do this. Then we'll do this. And then we'll do this. Now, we'll still do, can you run top without, what happens if you do echo top? Okay, so that doesn't work. All right, we'll just say something then. We'll do the normal, what we did before. If there's no PTY. So we can actually try and do this even if no PTY is requested, just to see what happens. You just do if true on the server and see what happens. Our client does not support terminals. What's it gonna do? It kind of works. It's not giving us the full window size. Yeah, it definitely looks different. Right, this doesn't quite work. Yeah. So, now we'll go back to his PTY. And now if we run it, we won't, what do we get? If it is PTY, exec command, I don't actually want to run the command now. We're just going to do PTY. We're not saying set up, oh, because we're doing a shell. So shell actually requires PTY. That's good to know. Let's run it then with some command. No, it shouldn't have done that. Right? If we do this, then it's going to do wrong. Commands. Greater than one, it's going to do start, not shell. Right? Just test that. What? Is it? Okay, it did echo it. Or it did print it, and then it started running the thing. I don't know why. We're not actually requesting a PTY. We're not doing a shell. At least I don't think so. What's going on? Typically, to a shell, yeah, if it's an exec, it's not going to do PTY. So what's going on? let's see, we'll only do this. We only do any of this if a PGY was requested. Set window size. Else. I don't know what's going on. I didn't save something or something. Okay, so you give it a command, it does what it was doing before. If we don't, it's going to try and run. Well, it doesn't do it at all. I feel like maybe this was... Okay, so apparently shell does not actually request PGY. Let's just confirm that. Send request shell, but no PGY. Cool. Do we have anything besides send request? Ah, we do. So OpenSSH, the way it works is, again, if you do no command, it's going to assume you want to open up a shell, and it will assume you want to request a PTY unless you tell it not to. You can also explicitly tell it to request a PTY when you run a command. Here we're just going to kind of go with the defaults for the most part. We might end up cutting this for future purposes, but just so we have it. Disable echoing. I'm not sure these are actually processed. We'll just do it. And next term, ideal. That's not really what it is, right? Because we'll have to look that up. But so now this should actually give us top, right? With a sort of default. I think if we even change this, this is width, this is width. Yeah, so that's working. We're requesting a PTY. How do we get this? We actually have to, and we have to send the screen size too, which I'm not sure is here. We'd have to send the raw request. All this is doing is wrapping send request. So this should also be something else, right? We have that set, so we actually should try and get that from the environment first. Then we'll just say exterm. Okay, so we got the terminal there. Now we need to get this stuff. So how do we do that? See, PTY is fucking obnoxious. Let's look up some library. This is what we use on the other end to allocate PTY on the server side. what would that be? I think we do get size on standard in. You also have to do like raw mode and stuff. I don't see that here. There's usually Golang terminal make raw. It's another thing that's really annoying. Restore get size. That's weird. Yeah, we can do this initially, right? And then we'll probably want to make standard in raw. And then most of this terminal stuff we don't use because this is like, oh, like an interactive terminal. That's not actually what we want to do here. So, but we do need this like stuff that's specific to like working with terminals. Right, you usually do something like this, 0 being standard in. So we'll probably want to do that. Actually, request PTY, we don't actually want to do this until we get the response because the server side might say that it doesn't want to. So we'll do this after. So that's raw. And then, but what else? Oh, we need to get this size. Then the only thing that we would be missing is getting ongoing size changes, which I'm not sure how we would get that without polling. Golang PTY screen size changes. Child process. All those terminal dimensions. See, the problem is we don't just want to get it once, we want to get it ongoing because the interface that the server is expecting is a channel and you get updates on the size. And so for some reason, all these are providing ways to look up the height and width, but not in a way that will actually give it to you on demand. Which, again, we could poll, but I'm pretty sure there's a way to just get it as changed, like it's sent as a signal or something. Well, let's just look at PTY. Terminal window size change. I don't think this is what we want. See if they have anything that does yeah, it's like here's the size. So I guess everybody's just pulling. Okay, maybe if I say resize. Yep. It's a signal. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we could just use normal signal handling. Let's see what these have to say. I don't think it's special. We just do, yeah. Yeah. We'll come back to that. We have an idea of how to do it. We'll do that here to do handle signal window change. Okay, but we will try and get the window size, which we should get from terminal get size. And if there's an error, again, very unlikely, and we'll handle that later. So this is weird. Sometimes this is backwards, but we know that this is width and height. All right, so now we have something that will resize to the full size, but if we change it, we don't get any updates. So as you can see, doing terminal stuff is obnoxious. Oh, we're not sending any signals. Blah. Cool. I killed the whole, I did the wrong. I don't know. I don't know what, oh, this is what I wanted to kill. So that's pretty good, except for the whole not dying. I think that, I mean, that part of that is the raw thing. I guess we can, until we figure that all out, we can just do without that. Right, and we can still kill it. Let's see. Well, so that's it. We've got our terminal. We just didn't get to port forwarding, but it's 9 o'clock now, and so it's a good stopping point. When we work on this next time, we can actually do port forwarding and use port forwarding. Port forward is ultimately what this is for, is port forwarding a file server. So the client actually serves up the current directory as a file server, and then the server is able to work with the files on there. It's something that SSH has never done before, but is totally possible if you do a custom client. So subscribe. I stream every Wednesday, and let's see. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll push this and then we'll have this in the repo. If anybody wants to add really anything to this, I will definitely accept those PRs and go over them in the next stream. So I'll do that as soon as I wrap up here. So, cool. All right, thanks everybody. See you next week.